and president of Divorce Right. And we provide training for HR professionals and company supervisors. And we provide divorce coaching and case management, providing the guidance and direction your divorcing employees so desperately need. Divorce is a huge disruptor, not only to the employee going through it, but to the company they work for. And our coaches here at Divorce Right have a very unique perspective on divorce that sets us apart. They have a deep understanding of the legal, financial, and emotional aspects of divorce, and they can handle even the highest conflict cases with compassion and professionalism. Our coaches are trained to look at the entire picture, helping your employees make good decisions based on their goals and their expectations. So, if you're an HR benefits manager or an HR benefits provider or consultant, please reach out to us and see if adding our suite of solutions is a good fit for your business. And a reminder, we have SHRM credits for SHRM members, and we will post a link to that at the end of this broadcast so that you can grab those. And I want to introduce you to my partner here, Paulette Rigo. She is not only my friend, she is my colleague, and she is an incredible certified divorce coach and mediator. And she's one of the very best in the business. And she's the director of coaching and case management here at Divorce Right. Hello, Miss Paulette.
Well, good afternoon, Vicki, and hello to everyone. So glad everyone came to listen to this broadcast again. It's an honor to be here and help spread the word about all the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having on the company bottom line.
Right. And today we're going to be talking about the impact of divorce on your employees' health, both their physical health, their emotional health, and if we have time at the end, even their financial health. And I know that that's really important in as we start talking about new benefit packages, new health insurance pricing for 2024. This should be a very, very interesting topic. So, do you want to get us started, Miss Paulette?
Absolutely. Well, much like myself, I know you, Vicki, you are a constant learner and you are always reading, uh, studying, researching, um, and putting together all kinds of fascinating statistics and data from experts because this really is an eye-opening problem and an impactful solution. So, you tell me, share, because I know I have a list of things I'm always reading and studying, but share with me what are the latest and the greatest statistics and studies that you've been finding. I can't wait to hear.
Well, awesome. I've really been diving deep into this and I'm so excited. So one of the things that I want to talk about first is the financial, I'm sorry, the physical health impacts that divorce has. And long-term chronic stress, which is really what divorce is, right? It's not a day, it's not 15 minutes. It's not that, when that back in the day when the tiger would walk across the cave door and you had to get out
Mhm.
immediately to get out of physical danger. That's so cortisol used to come and flood your body to get you out of that. But that is a very inflammatory, it has a very inflammatory effect on your immune system. We have cortisol, it's our fight or flight mechanism that gets us out of that immediate danger, that tiger. But the problem with that is in today's age, we no longer use it to get away from the tiger that crosses the door, right? In that situation, your body and your brain shuts down as many systems as they can possibly shut down,
Mhm.
all to supply energy to you getting out of that danger. So back in the day, it took you out of the danger of that tiger or that bear that would cross your path.
Yeah.
The divorce, you're under chronic cortisol flood for days, weeks, months, years, and even decades. And a quote from an American neuroendocrinologist researcher, Robert Sapolsky, he's a professor of biology and neurology and neurological sciences. He said a quote that I found really interesting. Stress related disease emerges predominantly out of the fact that we so often activate a physiological system, cortisol, that has evolved for responding to an acute physical emergency, getting out of that cave, right? When the tiger would go past. But in turn, we've turned it into being on for months on end, worrying about mortgages and relationships and promotions at work or losing our jobs. And
Mm.
our bodies were not meant to be under such severe stress for long periods of time. And it shows up, Paulette, as disease.
Absolutely. And even in the most amicable, uncontested divorce cases, we're not just talking about the highly litigated ones that are deeply complex, but even the friendly, maybe that's a little bit of a
Yeah.
casual
Amicable,
word,
maybe.
amicable, where they're both willing to have those difficult conversations to get through it. It doesn't take a day. I mean, the shortest personally and professionally, I've seen maybe 60 days might be short. And that's with no children.
Right.
They're both on board and they don't have a lot of assets to argue over.
Yeah.
So that's short. So even if it's 60 to 90 days and it's amicable, during those 60 to 90 days, it is extremely intense stress
It
and it
is.
lingers because you still have paperwork to review and a friendship to try to maintain. And so that is in your best case scenario, all the way to worst case, it absolutely can be, close to
Decades. Decades. So the research has found that divorced women, we'll talk about women first, they may have a higher risk of developing certain types of cancer. One study published in the Journal of the Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers and Prevention, a fun study to read, found that divorced women were more likely to develop breast cancer than married women. And the study analyzed data from more than 60,000 women and found that divorced women had a 20% chance of higher risk of developing breast cancer than those that are not divorced.
Mhm.
And another study published in the journal Cancer found that divorced women had a higher risk of developing advanced stage cervical cancer. So, ladies, if you're listening to this, if you've been through this, make sure you take precautions and get checked regularly so you can stay on top of that. And on men, it's different. It's really interesting. So, there was a study published in the journal Circulation, and that found that men who had been divorced have a 27% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease than their counterparts that were still married. And the study analyzed data of more than 15,000 men and women over a period of several years and found that the increased risk of cardiovascular disease was particularly pronounced in men who had been divorced more than once. And if you've been following this program, you'll remember we've talked about the more often you're divorced, the more likely you're to be divorced again. So first marriages, just under 50%, I think it's 47% of first marriages end in divorce. Second marriages, 63% end in divorce. And in third marriages, almost 3/4 of third marriages end in divorce. So divorce is a very significant risk factor for acute myocardial infarction. And in a study in the Journal of Men's Health found that men who had been divorced had a higher risk of developing certain types of cancer, including lung, colorectal, bladder, and prostate cancer.
Hmm.
Right. So it's, and I want to be really super clear here. It's not the divorce that's causing this problem, but
Mhm.
the stress of the divorce and
The
the
way it's
stress
managed and
after.
handled. Yeah, and the way it's managed and handled too. The
Absolutely.
more contentious it is and the more challenging the process, the person feels more trauma. They feel more impact physically because they're not sleeping.
Oh,
They're either or sleeping too much, or they're eating too much to cope, or they're giving up eating because they lose their appetite. How many people can relate to when
yeah.
you've had an upset in your life and food's just like, ugh, you
It's
just
the last thing on your mind, right?
nothing appeals to you, right? So between lack of sleep or proper nutrition, not hydrated enough, not getting enough fiber, and feeling the impact of the body starting to weigh heavily with all of physical ailments. So might that be a headache? I've seen people get extreme skin rashes, ringing in the
You're
ear,
right, for sure.
TMJ, they clench their jaw.
Yes, when
Go to
they're
the
sleeping.
dentist and the dentist says, "Are you clenching your jaw? Are you grinding your teeth?" And you're like, "Oh God, another person yelling at me," right? And before you know, it just impacts something as simple as chewing gum or mints is now like a a habit, or they'll pick up smoking, or they'll smoke more, whatever the
They're coping
coping
mechanisms,
mechanism
right?
is.
And what I think that the how we can bring this around is that if you want to reduce your health insurance cost,
Mhm.
consider supporting your employees through their divorce, through the process, and even after. Help them get over the anger and the rage and the
Mhm.
hate that continues to eat away at their health. And
And it will
that,
continue to
right?
be so. Yeah.
Yeah. So and not just your divorce, one of the part of I think I see this. I feel like we're the cog in the wheel of a lot of really expensive other things that happen,
Mhm.
like the health issues, the cancers and the myocardial infarctions, the health, the heart rate. That to me, this is one of those things, and it's there is also a study that showed that for men, despite being remarrying again, it does not reduce those percentages in any way. So, men, take care of yourself, get your lungs checked, get your bladder checked, your prostate, and just make sure that you are taking care of yourself, because you are the person that has to deal with the after effects of that. But employers, just know 47% of your staff has gone through a divorce. That's just statistics, right?
Yeah, and that's not changing,
No,
naturally.
oh gosh.
That will
And
change a little bit. It isn't always like a straight line. It will go up a little, down a little, up a little, down a little. And each age group does have different statistics. Some are much higher, some are a little lower, but across the board, that is a consistent number. It is not going away.
now,
Divorce is not, going away. I mean, it is, if anything, more of a conversation people are a little bit more comfortable having.
well,
So
you and
they're
I were just
able
talking
to
this
have
morning. You and I were just
that.
talking this morning about these. I mean, people are shooting people for no reason.
Right.
They're so stressed. Our culture has become so stressed
Mhm.
that now people are doing some crazy, crazy things,
Right,
and
road rage has never been
road
right.
rage, right? All
People
of
are
that
driving
stressors.
100 miles an hour for no reason, and changing lanes, and just there's this level of aggression. God only knows what they're going through. I would love to sit them down and say, "Could we talk? Is there a problem in your relationship?" But so now that we kind of discussed the physical, what kind of the trickle down theory from the headaches to cancer, from inflammation to stroke to something that's as innocuous as a root canal, but to something, meaning not many people die from a root canal, but it could get an infection. But all of these things take maintenance, they take preventative awareness and proactive care. You've got to make that appointment, you've got to go in for your regular checkup, and everyone knows that it is a lot less expensive to go see your doctor for an annual checkup, and
And
then
then
to suddenly find out that you have 94 things wrong with you because you've been ignoring it and wearing blinders because you don't want to deal with it. So when you're in a high stress situation, and name divorce as number two, only to death, it is time for you to practice extreme self care. Use that benefit that you have, and make sure that you take advantage of having an appointment for an annual checkup, and let them know, "I'm going through a lot of stress right now. Do a thorough blood test because I want to know what my baseline is." Because the physical body is going to break down if you do not nurture it, if you do not care for it, which of course leads to the mental stress that people go through, right? So now
absolutely.
that the body is either a well oiled machine or not, maybe it's the thoughts that you're thinking,
And in tandem
emotional,
with one another.
psychological, mental impact. So, what research have you found of the impact of the mental impact, that any
Right.
documentation that you found?
Several studies have found that divorce can increase the risk of mental health issues. So, for example, a study published in the Journal of Health and Social Behavior from 2017 found that individuals who went through a divorce were more likely to report symptoms of depression and anxiety compared to those who were still married.
Sure.
Another that was published in the Journal of Marriage and Family in 2015 found that divorced individuals were more likely to experience symptoms of depression, anxiety, and substance abuse compared to those that were still married.
Right.
So you can start to see you got depression, anxiety, addiction, and substance abuse issues. There's also the question of whether or not the mental health causes the divorce or the divorce causes the mental health issues. Right? But mental health issues can also be a contributing factor to a divorce. Research has shown that mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and personality disorders can strain marital relationships, and that can lead to a divorce. So, for an example, a study published in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology in 2005 found that marital distress and mental health problems were strongly correlated with symptoms of mental health issues, contributing to marital dissatisfaction and increasing the risk of divorce. And then, you just you have to wonder, is it, the divorce and mental health issues, they can go bidirectionally, right?
Lateral. Yeah.
First, the chicken or the egg.
And employers should know too that if you have an employee that is married to a spouse that maybe is a little difficult, a little challenging, maybe not, trouble in paradise, maybe, the nice phrase we use, and their marriage may be in question or on the rocks, they're going to be thinking about it at their computer at work, regardless of, there's not much you can do about that. Say, don't think about it. It's an internal dialogue. When someone has a physical ailment, a broken leg, or, something, physically wrong with them, a limp or a rash, or they've got a heart problem, or they're taking medication, typically that's going to be a little bit more noticeable. If they're tired, but if it's a mental health,
have sympathy for you, right? If you come in on
absolutely, right? I mean, how did that happen? But if it's a ruminating thought and it's something that's a mental aspect or a psychological, emotional, it's an internal dialogue that they have with themselves. And chances are they're not talking about it. It's a contemplation in their own little world. When people do contemplate divorce, whether they're the employee that is thinking about it because it's not happy or trouble in paradise at home for whatever reasons, or they're the person that's just kind of got that feeling, it's now going to take over. And the average amount of time that someone will contemplate divorce is 2 years. Some people may contemplate it for a decade because they're so afraid of having that backlash or the repercussions and the consequences of sharing that with anyone, particularly an employer, a coworker. What do they say that happens around the water cooler, right? Gossips breeds like wildfire. So they don't talk about it.
There's so much shame. There's still a lot of shame around the divorce process, which keeps
it has that impact
and the emotional things kind of going, right?
And you don't see it. You don't see what they're thinking about.
Right. If we can create a culture of acceptance around this process and understand that people are just really trying to end a relationship that's not working for them and their family anymore, and keep it out of the shadows and put it into acceptance, I think that people would be more likely to go seek the help from their employers. And that is, I think that that's really what's super important here. So now we've talked about there's physical problems that are costly problems, not only for the employee, but for the employer and their insurance purchasing moving forward. We've talked about the mental health issues of divorce
and mental health benefits.
And right, exactly. And let's now talk about the financial challenges for both of those parties. It's really important for a lot of employers out there to have employees that have their finances in order. As a matter of fact, checking credit ratings has been something that some employers have chosen to do to make sure that they have a responsible and a person that knows how to manage their money, because these people, when you don't have that financial expertise or management, or in the case of divorce you lose everything, it can just be devastating. So studies have shown that divorce can lead obviously to financial strain due to the division of their assets, property and debt, spousal and child support payments. Sometimes those don't go through. Legal fees, my goodness gracious. 15 to 30,000 is the average contested divorce these days, according to NOLO, and per person. So, that, and the cost of establishing, now you've got to move to a separate household. You've got two separate households. So you've got there's two electric bills. There's there's two
grocery bills, two rents, two phone, yeah, everything.
everything, right? So adjusting to a single income and potentially losing the financial benefits of a dual income marriage, that can contribute to financial difficulties after divorce.
And additional burdens of maybe additional childcare or
Right.
even separate vacations. You don't think about it, but you're basically taking one household and duplicating it.
Right,
And
exactly.
so everything is maybe not exactly twice as much, but the financial burden of keeping up with that is extreme.
It is, absolutely. And they can be a significant, financial issues. This is another one of the chicken or the eggs, right? Financial issues can be a contributing factor to the breakdown of a
Sure.
marriage, right?
Particularly if there's a bankruptcy, or excessive medical bills like that people can't afford, that can really put a burden on a marriage. And also being a caregiver of another family member or a spouse. If the spouse at home has had a stroke or is disability, and
Right.
your employee is, not the able-bodied person that's taking care of everything, the work, the finances, and everything at home, as well as children. You could only imagine the emotional, physical, and financial burden on that family.
Well, one of the things as we come into an economy that is, compressing a bit,
Mhm.
divorce actually rises. So I want employers, if you're listening to this, we are in, a wild economy right now, and divorce rates go up for particularly in two areas: for your employees who have a spouse that has lost their job, and or an employee who has lost their home to foreclosure. Those are two areas where during times of financial issues and matters with the economy, that divorce goes up. So start to think about how you can support families that are struggling financially and get them the habits, so instead of, they can be, work on their spending habits and their financial goals, their financial values, all of that. When it doesn't, and when it isn't aligned, it can really create marital conflict, strain, and lead to divorce.
And the more responsible or aware they are of their own personal financial snapshot, shall we say,
Right.
and their credit score, their debt to income ratio, how to manage credit cards, um, all of the personal financial questions that families need to address. The more equipped and knowledgeable your employees are about personal finance, even if they're not working in your company in corporate finance, it's a stronger employee. They're gonna, if they can't manage their own personal finances, chances are it's going to be harder for them to get the bigger picture of what the bottom line is for a company. And
Right.
let's face it, all businesses are in the business of business. So you have to make sure that your employees are educated and functioning not only at work, but what can you do to support them at home as well?
Right. Absolutely. So those economic hardships, again, unemployment of a partner, financial mismanagement, those kinds of things can strain it. And divorce has long-term financial consequences that go on beyond just the immediate post-divorce period, right? There was a study published by the Journal of Family and Economic Issues in 2016 found that divorced women experienced a decline in wealth and income in the years following their divorce compared to the, married women. And while divorced men did not experience the same decline, divorce is the number one reason that single mothers fall into poverty,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
It is it is a big reason. I don't know about you, Paulette, but for my clients, I have had bankruptcy attorneys on speed dial. Hello, Steve Orchard in Boca Raton. It is just it's just a part of this process that goes back to poor decision making when they were going through their divorce, saying, just give them everything. I don't care, just to get out of that pain. And they end up in financial ruin that makes them the stress, start to see the stress continues. The
Mm,
stress of divorce is causing health and wellness benefits to rise.
sure.
And we have to start addressing the fact that through this system, this labyrinthine system that we throw these people into without preparation, they wake up that one morning and they hear the words, I want a divorce, or perhaps they say the words, I want a divorce. But what do they do next? And those next steps are going to determine their physical health, their financial health, and their emotional health. So, what I would love to, as we wrap this up, Paulette, I want to let everybody know that we are here for your divorcing employees. We are here for your HR department. We will help your employee go through this process. We can either help them with our virtual product, which is amazing. It is a book, a workbook written by Paulette, and a 10+ hour virtual interactive course where they can learn. And at the end, what I love about that course is by the time they're finished with it, they have created a plan that works for them. It may not work for me, it may not work for you, but it works for them. And then they have a plan that they can look at and go, this is the direction I'm going. And now I don't have anything to worry about. And not that they don't have anything to worry about, but those decisions they've
They
already
have a
made.
map, right? They
They've
know where
all,
they're going.
they have their own roadmap to success
And the
afterward.
beauty is too is it's private. They can do it in the little earbuds with no one listening. It can be an internal world where they kind of just learn at their own pace. No one even needs to know that they're doing some research and learning. And it's self-paced. So they can do the whole darn thing in a weekend if they're, I wouldn't suggest it, but I have known a few
Yeah.
go-getters that are like, and other people take their time, which we need. So you can use those different phases at your own privacy and your own, whether you're doing that in the car, in your lunch break, in the evening after the kids go to bed, on the weekend, whenever they're doing it, so that they have the ability to learn, to prepare privately, confidentially, and at their own pace, so they're not rushing.
And what else that I love that we've done is we have group coaching calls that they
Mhm.
can come to, your employees can come to as often as they need to. And we ask them to list the 5 things that are keeping them up at night, so that we can help them get through those crucial moments in their lives that they're
It's
struggling.
also a private community too. So it's right, it's a closed forum and they can be anonymous and have as much privacy as they need. Some people aren't so private, some people are very private, but it's a confidential group environment. So they also don't feel alone. Having a community of others, knowing, oh, I thought I was the only person, my life was falling apart. And you realize, hey, look at these other people are succeeding, and having a safe place to ask questions, to feel heard and seen and validated, so that they know that they're at least able to do a little research, get their ducks in the row, and make sure that they're making better choices.
Absolutely. So I want to remind everybody as we wrap this up today that for all of our LinkedIn Lives, we have SHRM credits for you. So I am going to put in the chat the link that you need to go to grab your SHRM credits and get those. Next week, we're going to be talking to a former HR manager. She was with Mary Kay, and she is now a certified divorce coach, but she's going to be talking about how those two career paths intersect and the importance to the HR community for this benefit. So we'll be talking to her, Lane Crawl, next week. And I look forward to seeing you again then. And you and I will be talking, of course, in between. But for everybody else that's listening, we appreciate you so much. And if you need us, we are here to answer any questions for any of your employees from somebody at the lowest seniority all the way up to the E and C suites. We can help them all because they all matter. And we appreciate you so much. And just remember, we don't advocate for divorce. We advocate for divorce done right and what's right for your employee. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week.